All right, I am going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order for Tuesday, July 16th. I want to welcome everybody this evening. We have a number of items on our agenda that we'll go through. We do have the Conservation Commission coming in at 7:30, so I anticipate we'll move through many of these items. First item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our June 18th regular meeting. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Or, sorry, any changes, corrections, additions, deletions? No? Okay. There are just a couple of items, Mary Ann, I'll circle back to these later, which were OPEB and also discussion on the pension fund, so we'll circle back to those later. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, they are approved. Okay, next item on our agenda is interdepartmental transfers. There was a memo from Mary Ann in your package dated July 3rd regarding interdepartmental transfers along with intra-departmental transfers. I think the primary focus for us would be the interdepartmental transfers, which would actually be covered out of Section 812, subsection F of the new town charter. Mary Ann, you want to just carry us through on some of those interdepartmental transfers?
Do you have your copy done? Yes, yes. This year, we had, we settled on union contracts this year, so that was one of our bigger issues. Going through it was $350,000. 353,923, we covered that in the shortfalls in our departments. Some of the bigger issues were the contractual services to various town accounts. Those were off, but they were due to $64,755,000 was tree service in the Department of Public Works. And the balance was split between the departments. Facilities maintenance was on town buildings and the Dewey property, the cleanup on Dewey.
Is that the 47,755?
Yeah.
No? Where would that be?
87,000.
Oh, okay, you're on the back. You're on the back side.
page.
Okay, got it.
87,000 of that facilities maintenance. $32,000 of that was Jerry's department, the
Okay.
Parks and Open Space.
Yeah.
And the Dewey Farm and Scout Hall were the other projects in there. The equipment maintenance, $49,779, is that HVAC system for the library, which we covered internally within the departments. And we used in the end, we had to use $126,000 that we had a surplus in the major medical account to cover the other expenses. Mainly the big expense was the payrolls and overall maintenance that we had. And we had an increase in Social Security Administration. We had to pay Social Security an additional $25,000 because of the contract settlements. So that's where we're sitting with these transfers.
Any questions for Mary Ann? Just one quick question on the library HVAC system.
Yeah.
That was a replacement of an older unit?
Yeah, that's half the unit because a unit costs about $96,000. There was money in the old library account, and this is the 1985 unit. So this is the older unit that wasn't replaced. They took $54,000 out of that account. They liquidated that account for the unit, and then the balance plus the expenses of trying to fix this unit. This unit will not be in until the middle of August. They had to order it in June. It takes 8 weeks for a replacement to come in. So they're working off of one unit in the library right now.
Okay.
So was the fund that was liquidated was the balance in the building fund?
It's the library building fund, correct?
And then be paid for the entire contract?
Or the what contract?
For...
The renovation, you mean, for the
Yeah, the
library?
installation, yes, that's all part of that fee. They went out to
$54,000.
bid, and it came in at $96,000. Plus, there was additional fees that they were paying just to get this unit to restart. So that's part of that facilities maintenance at the library. And they were trying to find savings within their budget. Tom was trying to find savings within his budget. And we tried, and we're within operating budgets over the course of the year, but that's why we did we're asking for interdepartmental, but we did interdepartmental too, so we could cover some of their expenses.
How does that work then? Are the funds encumbered from the last fiscal year to cover the contractor
Oh, yes.
installation? Okay.
Yeah, we encumbered all the funds in June, once we got approvals to move
But
forward.
this is all within the 2013 budget year that
Right.
ends.
That ended.
That ended, right. So,
Perfect.
and they're all just, the bottom line is still the same, it's just moving stuff around.
Exactly right.
Yep.
So,
It's good news. It's covered.
My annual observation, we've got $245,000 of basically salary-related adjustments that we're talking, what, 3 or 4 full-time equivalents? Something on the order of that. I guess I'm always amazed at where some of the monies are coming from. Election administration must have the biggest budget.
We thought they would have to pay for an extra primary, and they didn't. They were able to have, instead of having 2, they only had to do 1, and that was the difference. I spoke with the registrar, they explained it to me.
But
So
I
there was
agree
a
with you,
savings.
Paul, we're just shoving money around.
right, I mean, and some of it's contingencies because you don't know about the settlement of the contracts, so you gotta find it somewhere, and, you know, this isn't all this different than from a business standpoint. You put money aside and then you say, okay, I need it from here or there, I'm not spending as much as I want. It's still not a very precise system in a lot of ways.
Except in business, we don't move it all around like this. We just have over and under runs
Yeah,
and
you
leave it,
just-
as long as
Yeah,
it's next
that's
year.
right.
You don't
Yeah,
move
you
it
look
around.
at the variances and learn from it.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
And on the revenue side, we just call it a go-get. You know, we'll figure it out later on. So, okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion on the interdepartmental transfers?
we were doing,
Yeah, we're going to do, we're going to do this one. We'll touch on that later. I want to take this one separately.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on the interdepartmental transfer of $490,822?
No, we're doing the inter.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Inter.
That's right.
Right, we're doing the inter.
The 490 piece.
$490,822. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now on the intra-departmental, Mary Ann, you and I talked about that briefly at the end, or the end of the day on that.
Right.
There's a number of those there, but those are all within
Their department.
their departments. And according to our read on the charter, those don't require Board of Finance approval. It was only on the inter-department. Correct. Okay. So really, this is more just advisory for us.
It is advisory for you, yes.
Mary, you're in agreement with all that? Okay.
So
I didn't
Peter,
see
can
anything
I ask, do
outstanding.
they actually have to do an entry for every one of these?
Yeah, I had to, yeah.
Why do we have so many accounts then? Isn't there a way to simplify it?
Oh, no, you don't let it go there.
Special revenue funds.
Mary Ann?
You could. I think that the philosophy was that the boards wanted more control, so they wanted more line items. I mean, you could do, general central administration and just leave it. But, we thought it's better counting if you have a line item for each item, and then you can track where you.
And with penetration,
But
it's fairly
certainly-
straightforward, right?
But certainly you can have fewer. That would make our life easier.
This is
Work on it.
pages of work, right?
But if we've got...
There's something in the middle, I have a feeling.
Yeah.
If we've got penetration there and we're
Happy to-
using it,
Happy to look at
and
it.
it just spits it out, so. Peter, you have any comments on that?
Nope.
No? Okay. Okay, all right, that takes care of that item on the agenda.
The CPA
Okay,
is boggled by it.
next item on the agenda is school technology presentation. This is really just trying to continue to do a deep dive in various subjects. We had one last month from the Board of Selectmen. Jerry Toner came in and did a deep dive on Simsbury Farms and the recreational fund. And this time I wanted the Board of Education to come in and talk about the technology, what we're doing with the technology, the funds that we've provided over the last number of years, which has been, a substantial amount of money. And where are we with that? What are we getting for the funds, and what are the plans for the future? So, my thought would be we'll let Burke and Matt go through their presentation, and we'll jump in on questions as well, and go from there. I would anticipate this would, I think with Jerry, we were here for 20, 25 minutes, that part of the meeting. So that's probably what kind of questions are generated from the members. So with that, Burke, I'll turn that over to you. Or Matt, or Lydia, do you want to make any comments ahead of that?
I would just say it's actually timely. At our last Board of Ed meeting, we presented a similar report, updating them on the virtualization project, which is the capital, funding that I think you were referring to, as well as the progress of a study group we brought together over the course of the year. We called it an Innovation Study Committee that has some recommendations as we move forward in terms of technology use in the classroom. So I think it hits both pieces pretty well.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity. Matt said we gave a longer version of this presentation, so we tried to modify it, and I'm essentially trying to fill the roles that two of our key staff people played during this presentation. Jason Casey, some of you may know, is our Director of Systems Technology, and John Cia Latwinick is our Director of Instructional Technology. So the two of them, you'll see this sort of divided into two pieces here. The first project we wanted to talk about was our capital project on virtualization, which was approved in May of 2012. Total funding was $1.8 million, but as you probably recall, we looked at a cash flow of roughly 1/3 for 3 years. So that's a phase project, and we're going to talk about that first phase. Just to remind people, the goals of this were really to allow us to take and upgrade to Windows 7 and Office 2010 from much older versions of that software, and in order to essentially improve the performance of the PCs that are in the classroom and within our schools, and to make it more sustainable so that we're not buying new boxes, so to speak, new CPUs that we're able to upgrade going forward at less than the cost of trying to replace and trying to keep up with that. The other important aspect is that it allows us to centrally manage and support the network. So what would happen in the past, and is still happening, but to a lesser extent, is that each summer we'd have to go around and upgrade software in every individual box, every device, and have to re-image those. So that takes a lot of time. This allows us to roll out software and everybody's got it in one simple process, and to know that everybody's got the latest version, and it saves staff time for management. And then the last aspect of this was we knew that this virtualization process, or private cloud, so to speak, gives us flexibility and options on mobile devices for staff and for students. So looking for options going forward. To just remind us again, you might recall this visual from the town meeting process. The first option is sort of the older version, where the little colored icon is just showing that all of the processing and the applications are housed on that personal device. Whereas in the second option, which is the virtual clients, that's what we have moved to in this first phase. So everything is happening at a remote server level, and it's really just the person is just working at that terminal, basically. So we've moved forward in phase one. We had to build the infrastructure, which, to start with, in this first phase, it's at one location. As we move on, we'll talk about the other phases. We'll be expanding that. And we had approximately 400 virtual clients that were put in place in this first year. But we had to do a lot of preparation, and I would again echo that was Jason and Joncia who had to manage that, to prepare faculty and staff as to how things were going to change, what was coming. And we really focused in the first phase on the hardest task. The most difficult part of this is that we needed to get it to the classrooms to impact students and teachers. And each classroom where we've purchased smart boards and document cameras and so forth, we needed to make sure that those computers were not taking a long time to start up and slowing down the process. So we made sure that we started in this first phase with those PCs. We've bought 366 of those classrooms that have a projector similar to this. Not all of them have a smart board, but they would have a screen at least similar to this, and many of them have document cameras. But what was the most difficult is that this is not just making the software run, but it's also to control the document cameras and the smart boards is the most complicated aspect. So those were the PCs we were starting with, and there were definitely some struggles, but they were able to work through that. So the future phases should be easier because the challenges are not as great. So that goal was met.
Okay, I was just going to say, so that goal's met, you've gone through phase one.
Phase one, and I've got a little bit of numbers on that for you, because I know you want to look at the expenditures on that. Just a couple of, so the challenges, as I mentioned in this first phase, had to do with all of these devices that had to be controlled through this virtual environment. And then other aspects such as getting the building-by-building scheduling to convert teachers' PCs to this process and just get them prepared for how things would be different. But they all rolled out exceptionally well by the end of this school year in all of the regular classrooms, and there's a few that are being finished over the summer. So the expenditures overview for phase one to date is $463,960. There's some more that we have work that's being done over the summer. So the first phase is virtually done, and we're close to that target.
We started this last summer or just
We
this
started
year?
it last year in July,
Yeah.
August.
Did you have a budget for the first phase?
We had a budget of the $600,000 that we knew was coming to us. We were able to, I think we had a contingency in there that was close to $100,000 for not being sure how things would actually roll out. So we stayed under budget for that.
And we're doing all of this with our staff, or?
We have a contract. That's a great question. Nick, we signed a contract for this with Walker Systems. They're out of Farmington. So this is being done. It was being designed, and they're working on it with us. But our staff are definitely doing a lot of the work to test and to implement this. There were a lot of hardware costs, servers, and getting the infrastructure set up, and then there was also technical support.
So the in-house staff dedicated to this are the two individuals you mentioned?
No. They were both involved. There are technicians that work for the district. There are 4 technicians, and they all were involved to different degrees, and they work with Jason and with Joncia. So there's really a team of 6 in our technology department that's doing. Also, I should mention there are positions, Brian Marcinkowski works with teachers in the classroom, so he works with Joncia to help explain to teachers how, how these changes would impact them and support them in the classroom. So there's more the technical side, the hard system side that Jason works with. There's the instructional side, but you can't separate the two totally because they're constantly interfacing and interacting when a classroom teacher has a problem and says, I can't work the smartboard with this test. They did it in a test mode. Well, we can't make that work. Then they have to go and they have to figure it out and solve those problems one by one by one. And they did a great job of, getting that done. And
Is any of this also impacting administrative staff, such as, the principal's office at the high school or junior high school, or even upstairs for you guys? Are you connected into this?
You gave me a great segue to phase 2.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Before we go to
so
phase 2, though, can I just ask, you mentioned at the inception you had a study group or a work group?
that's coming up more on the second half of this presentation, which is a little bit more about how it impacts instruction. The first part of this presentation is more focused on what did we build, and then the second part of this is more about how are we using it.
Okay.
Okay? So we will definitely get to that shortly. So phase 2, our goal, which is starting now, the phase 2 scope of work is being finalized, and we'll kick off this summer to expand the infrastructure to a second building location within the district. We would be looking to virtualize the classroom labs, library media centers, and administrative offices, Paul, to your question. And we want to improve the infrastructure resiliency. Well, that means various things. I know we've got a lot of wireless. We've got wireless capability in all of our buildings. We're trying to test that because as we utilize that more, we want to make sure that we understand how that network will be impacted. Also, as I mentioned, going to a second location. If you have a problem with one location, you've got some redundancy built into this. And then the last bullet there is that there are certain clients that we'll have to install the new software, but we won't be virtualizing them. And those are certain higher level software programs that we may be using in the high school for the engineering program and things like that just don't lend themselves well to the virtualization process because the software just has such a higher degree of complexity, I guess would be the way to say it. So phase 3 would be the third year out, and again, we look to expand further. The target is to do about 750 clients in year 2, and roughly another 750 in this third phase. So that's a quick overview of where we're headed with the capital.
Can I just circle back a little bit on, within phase 1, as far as like the smart boards? We had invested a lot over the years on smart boards.
Yes.
And any statistics on the utilization of those smart boards, and also what has been the maintenance cost for them? I understand the bulbs are rather expensive to fix. Have you shed any light on some of that?
Well, in terms of the utilization, I would have to verify if we have a firm percentage. I know with Joncia, I know that we have seen consistent expansion, and that my understanding is they're very widely utilized. The smart boards have become part of the way we instruct, and the document cameras help with that. As well as the smart boards. So I think it's a very high percentage, so I will get back to you on that.
The indication of that would be when we did run into some of the complexities and the issues of tying the equipment together. The feedback we got from teachers is, this is how I deliver, like, we can ill afford to have this not work correctly. It's
Right, you really hear quickly when there's a problem with them. To your question about maintenance, we definitely have had, we started the technology campaign, I think, roughly 2006. We were earlier than many of our neighbors to get those out into the classroom and have them available in all classrooms. We have had to replace certain ones. They're different models and different ages. As to I don't have a cost per projector that I can cite, but again, I'll get you some data.
Hey, I was just wondering.
On that.
I was curious, as you move into phase 2 with the resiliency efforts and I guess really more geared at the administrative offices and the sensitivity of some of that information, student protected data and what have you under, federal laws. Does the contract with
Walker Systems.
or Walker Systems include addressing those issues in terms of encryption, if teachers will be communicating with certain devices via the cloud, and then the security of the cloud itself?
The cloud is our cloud, so it's not going out to, the servers are hosted here.
Hosted here.
So in terms of I'm not aware, Jeff, I can find out if there's any change based on the virtualization, but I've not heard of any that impacts our security in any negative way. I mean, we have the same concerns whether or not they be PCs connected to our network. It's still our network, and we still have to maintain it, and we still have to have, protection for it.
Firewalls and what have you. The technology is moving ahead so quickly. I think about kind of the cloud and existing out there somewhere. So I do know that where I work now, for example, encryption as faculty members begin deploying their personal devices is a really important factor if they're communicating through this server to ensure the integrity of confidential information, student information.
Yeah. Okay. Very important. Good, I'm glad you brought that up.
Any other questions on that?
No, if you want to keep on moving.
Okay. Instructional technology. So this would be John Cia's area, and essentially this slide is just trying to say what's happened since we were able to do this first phase, and what are some of the ways that that technology is transforming the way they're doing instruction. So targeting student needs. There's something called a Confer app that is able to be utilized with iPads, and what it allows a teacher to do, carrying around that iPad, they can look at progress that their students are making within the classroom. They can take notes, they can sort that data, they can look at how it meets the Common Core standards. They can essentially, they can use the camera and take a snapshot of that student's work and then go back and be able to keep records on that. But they can do it for small groups or an individual student. So that's something that's being utilized by some of our teachers. Clickers, you may have heard of those. We have 41 classroom sets of those currently. What they do is allow immediate feedback from students. The teacher knows, are they understanding the lesson in real time as it's being taught. That's being
So they ask them a question and then they,
it's being done at the college level a lot, I know, and
Yeah.
we're utilizing it both at the elementary level as well as at secondary levels.
Yeah.
So those are devices that teachers are using to get feedback from the
yeah,
students.
we've used those in our business setting for meetings and things like that, so.
You're interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we are taking advantage, while we certainly aren't replacing classroom books, there are greater uses of ebooks and online level text for
We actually buying
elementary levels.
textbooks?
These are more classroom library books, but yes, we are still buying those, and I don't think there's any end in sight to those being utilized. It seems to be more of you get the benefit of study guides and other things that are the electronic versions, but it does not replace the text, and it doesn't save you money by
I know where you're going. You thought 10 years ago we wouldn't need a library in town.
No, that's not where I was going. That's not where I was going at all. I was thinking of $300,000 that we have in the textbook account.
You know what Simsbury Schools alone does for the backpack business?
Yeah, there you go.
So,
No, I never thought that, by the way, just for
That was a cheap shot.
Yeah, it was.
So from the classroom perspective, what virtualization has done is allowed us to, have the most updated software apps, and to have more reliability and better integrate the technology into the teaching. And that was exactly what those goals were when we started. The last bullet here is we're utilizing Google Apps for education to a larger degree, and it allows students to work on a spreadsheet, documents, and slides or PowerPoints. It's all free to utilize. They can utilize it from home. They can work in groups, and the teachers can see the status of what they're working on. So we had some presentations that were built into the Board of Ed presentation, but it's just a bit too lengthy, but they gave you a better sense of how the students were really excited about these, how the teachers were excited, and how the parents were excited to see what their children were able to do, and how they're able to give feedback to each other about their writing assignments, and to really to give constructive feedback. And one of the more memorable quotes for me was how one of the parents was saying that that there's a lot of adults in their workplace that haven't gotten that skill to take constructive feedback about their work, and it was great to see the kids doing that in groups at the elementary levels. So Matt mentioned earlier about the Innovation Subcommittee it's really a subcommittee of the Technology Advisory Committee, which has a larger representation of staff and I believe board members as well as students. The Innovation Subcommittee has been roughly 30 people that Johncia has been working with, staff that are from all disciplines, and as you see here, the goal is to really look at what are the needs for students, how do we utilize technology, and making recommendations to help guide our planning for our purchasing of technology.
This is where I had a question, which was
Yes.
whether you are leveraging any of the expertise in town. Do we have any volunteers in the community who?
I think we have some expertise on that larger Technology Advisory Committee, and the state requires us to do multi-year plans for technology. So this is a little more focused on the direct use for
Curriculum.
instruction.
Yep.
And the recommendations, they want to ensure, before we deploy any technology, that we're really ready for it, that we've tested it. We're starting to put more iPads in the hands of teachers, and want to make sure that we're providing training on best practices of how to utilize that. And another important aspect is that we need to give younger and younger students access to keyboarding skills and the math programs because of the testing requirements that are coming. 14, 15, Matt, we had some
15,
sample testing this year.
The Connecticut Mastery Test and the CAP test in high school, which is in 10th grade now, will go away and will be replaced with a new test, which is called the Smarter Balanced Assessment. It'll be given grades 3 through 8 and be given in grade 11, and it's 100% online. It's a very different testing platform. We've gotten an early look at both the content, the structure, which has allowed us to kind of gauge the technology needs. And we need to best figure out strategically how you have X number of devices and you move everybody through a testing platform. So we had a pilot this spring, which we tried some things out. I think, good learning experience from that, but a lot different, very different in how students approach test taking. For a third grade student to have to produce all his or her open-ended responses in writing prompts in text is a very different skill set than doing that the traditional way we've done it for a long time.
And that's federal or state requirements?
That is, it's both. We've signed on, when the Common Core which 46 states have signed on to participate with. As a result of that, you needed to work with one of two testing companies or testing consortiums. Connecticut chose Smarter Balance. There's another one called PARC. Both are electronic in format, but federally we are required to test annually in a standardized way.
Any funding? Any funding associated with any of the requirements?
No.
Unfunded mandate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
We don't have any of
we're funding.
Yeah.
But that's-
So to Burke's point, we need to find ways to increase access and accessibility to kids at a young age, because what we saw very early on, and I think other districts saw as well, particularly with the younger students, although kids are very adept with technology, that doesn't mean they're strong in keyboard. Two very different skills, ways to maneuver touch screens, which most children are exposed to, and actually producing text are very different things. So we want to ensure that the test isn't testing the technology skills of students, but the skills and knowledge that they've acquired over time. And there's going to be a learning curve there.
Okay.
So, moving along here to get to...
So can I put that in English? Are you teaching typing in second grade now? Is that essentially the concept?
We are not right now. We need to think about, and what I would like to see, rather than teaching typing, is what ways we can expose kids to, embed tasks rather than just teach typing in isolation, because we don't have a lot of time to get through the content and the curriculum that we need to get
Well,
through. But we need to get at that. Yes, we need to get at that.
One of the things I've observed, my wife is an example, she's got a background of going to Katie Gibbs, where you learn to touch type and, you're working with a physical keyboard and so forth. I put her on my iPad, she can't use it, because you can't tell where the keys are. I mean, the keyboard's laid out the same way, but it's different, and she literally can't use it, although she could sit here with a typewriter and...
So, but even the way kids interact with text, to read a passage and answer questions about it, scroll up and down on the screen rather than what we've taught them about underlining and different strategies on paper. So,
Cursive writing become a thing of the past?
it's a pretty significant.
It's gone the way of Latin.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah, by the way of
elective,
Latin, right?
especially with texting and all the...
Yeah.
Sticky notes.
So,
Okay.
So just to finish up on these recommendations, because I got some more slides that I want to get through for you, if you have more questions on those. Increasing time for teachers to collaborate and learn about how to use technology in the classroom. And then lastly, 24/7 access to school electronic resources is their recommendation. So our next steps, a little more specifically, we want to keep integrating the Google Apps and the cloud-based applications. This is of benefit to us, unlike the iPads, which are not meant to be managed as a group. There is a management system software with the Chromebooks, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those. You don't have to have, you can use Google Apps from any device that has internet. But there is a management system for the applications that we are purchasing. We want to expand the innovative practices with assessment and instruction, and as Matt mentioned earlier, preparing for the online testing. So we're looking to embed things in the curriculum as opposed to teaching, just the keyboarding. And the goal here is that we're trying to get more access to one-to-one device per students. So how do we go about doing that? Our plan for the upcoming school year 13-14, kind of breaking it into grade level, is to keep working on increasing access for students. In grades K through 1, we have some, the goal is to have 5 student iPads per classroom with these apps, and we have started purchasing some of those. We're going to be purchasing more. So those youngest students aren't yet going to be doing that type of keyboarding, but there are certain apps that work well for iPads. And then in grades 2 to 3, we have laptop parks. We're trying to increase access because that's where we want to start getting that comfort level with using the keyboard. And then in grades 4 through 12, we're looking at Chromebooks, which are similar to laptops with cards. And I brought one here for you to take a quick peek at if you haven't seen one before. It's very lightweight. If you flip it open, the other way around, it has a keyboard, Nick.
Yes, Joe.
It has a keyboard that you can
You see the phone? You see
break it.
You see the phone I have?
And,
It's not even a smartphone.
They have, started, we're starting to, we purchased a small amount of these. We've purchased more for the upcoming school year. So that's a fairly cost-effective way of providing more devices. And then also, the second area is increasing teacher access. We're looking to purchase 145 iPads for teachers, bringing our classroom total to 175. So in grades 2 through 6, there'd be sort of an application process with teachers that were either as a team or by themselves to say, look, I'm interested in having one of these devices to start testing it and start using it in classroom. And then in grades 7 through 12, we're trying to build up a base on a departmental level.
Are there consortiums for purchasing, bulk?
Jason Casey gave me all of the quotes from, it's a very tight market. The unit cost on these from 3 or 4 different sources just was, within a dollar or two. It's a pretty tight.
Okay.
There's not a lot of
Big
markup, so we're confident that we've got the best price out there. So for
Kirk, I would just say from the standpoint of a student device that would meet multiple needs, the Chromebook versus the iPad. The iPad, Nick, to your point, would offer challenges to students in that format unless you purchase the little keyboard. I know for my iPad, I went and got a keyboard that goes with it. This is inclusive of the keyboard. And
Yes.
It is a much more cost-effective tool.
Burke, in
They're about 200.
in the interest of time, to make sure that you guys have time to
just about
talk
done.
in executive session, would you just maybe go to slide 10 so that we can get a historical and then wrap it up with a couple
Sure.
of questions?
So if I could just say for 14-15, we're looking to increase the ratio, so purchasing more in that in 14-15 and trying to get teachers, about 80% of teachers to have them. And of course, that will take some additional funding as we develop our 14-15 budget. I put this slide back in, we had back in the early years of the technology plan, we were spending more than $600,000 out of the operating budget. That had to decrease when the economy suffered greatly, and then that was one of the reasons why we were able to recommend and get funding for the virtualization project, in part to catch up. And we don't expect to have to get back to that level, but we're just showing you that what has been our recent past is $240,000 was what we spent on new instructional funding last year, and $270,000 is budgeted for next year. So we see that for 14-15, based on what our plan is here to try to increase the access, that's why we wanted to give you that sort of early warning.
Oh, I have a question.
Sure, Barb, go ahead.
Can I just ask about storage? As we're expanding usage and putting more and more stuff on there, do we have strict retention policies so that we're not building up the annual cost of storage of documents over time?
Do we have strict retention policies? I'm not totally understanding.
So what-
How long do you have to retain
Right,
stuff?
what do they keep?
There's state guidelines. I was thinking you were talking about retention of equipment. I'm sorry.
No,
not
not at all.
paper.
Yeah, of the work that's done on there as we expand
We follow
usage.
the state guidelines. We have to fill out requests to the state to destroy records, and it goes through multiple layers from Matt, myself, and Mary to sign it. So we're following those state guidelines.
That would
They
be like
differ for
student
different-
records, I'm thinking just
Teacher
anything
works.
that's,
We
yes,
have
everything,
accounting-
student works,
accounting
teacher
paperwork,
work.
all kinds of, there's categories, and we have to follow the state.
The state prescribes it all.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think Barbara's talking a little bit about if I'm a teacher and I'm creating lesson plans maybe and storing them online and using additional capacity, how do we monitor that in terms of giving people guidance so that we're not just
Retention of
using, is that what
electronic.
you're getting at, using
Yes.
excess space
Sorry,
out there that's causing
Didn't
us?
understand it.
So,
That's something that John and Jason have definitely been struggling with, because on one hand, there are certain areas where people are, we have a network so that people can get these resources. They don't have to individually save everything, but yet there are some disciplines where teachers have to save particular curriculum that they've developed, and there's a push and pull as we see them using it more. There's going to be a need for more space, but through our subcommittee process, I think that's something that hopefully there'll be recommendations on that as well. But that's I think going to be a push and pull with greater utilization, which we want to see. So far, we one of the things we've had done this summer is sort of a higher level network review of our server and how we organize that and how we back up and how we have planning for this future level of technology, which we know is going to be becoming more and more important. So we're trying to plan for that.
Have we had any problem with the physical security of devices like that when you just passed around? I mean, they're small, they can,
Disappear?
they can disappear easily.
We have not, our laptops are in carts, they're locked up by classrooms, so they're, we have an asset tag on all of them, we inventory them. We have software for the IT department that helps to track all of the.
If you were to take that outside, does that work the same way as it works within the school system?
It's got a Wi-Fi, it's
within the
wireless.
Wi-Fi range.
Yeah.
Well, if you're using it 24/7, that means people are taking them home, right?
We aren't
Yeah.
talking about that. We're not at
accessing
that
the-
point. We're
the
just trying to
network.
provide more access within the school day at this point. And it's a combination of existing laptops, Chromebooks that we intend to purchase, and some of the computer labs and things that.
But the logical extension, eventually people will be signing these things out and
Right.
working with them.
So with a lot of the, the Google documents, if you can get online, you can get to
Yeah.
where those things are stored in the cloud.
Any further questions for Burke or for Matt? Okay. All right, I think given the amount of time that we've allocated for this, and I know the next item, the next two items could probably wait until after the executive session. I don't think that we want to shortchange that topic, because I know, Matt, you're here, Chris is here, Lydia's here. So what I'm going to suggest is that we make a motion to amend the agenda to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, now, the next thing what we need to do is make a motion to go into executive session. I'm going to leave. You guys are going to handle this on your own. And then Peter's going to chair the meeting. And then when you come out of executive session, you will just, based upon the time, take up these two other items.
Who's going to be in executive session with us?
Okay, for executive session, since it's Board of Ed, I think it needs to be Burke, Dr. Curtis, Chris is on the Board of Ed, and Lydia's on the Board of Education. I think everybody else, including clerk, needs to exit the room. So, anybody disagree with that?
We need to have Mr. Galt turn the,
Yeah. When I leave, I will shut the camera off. I've already talked to Dave about that. So, what's that?
First, do you need a motion to?
Right, so now we need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to move into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Are you sticking around?